Hey everyone, Matt Chart here, bringing you another silver analysis for today is April 21st, 2011, and we closed at 46.57 an ounce today. Silver just seems to be on a warpath, hitting new highs here for about 8 trading sessions in a row. And basically, we need to look at a few things here to figure out what exactly is happening in silver. So first of all, before we get into the actual technicals of silver, I want to take a look at the US dollar. This is a US dollar chart I've produced, and I did do a US dollar analysis on this. You can definitely take a look at it. So this is basically going to be also an update on the US dollar. So basically, what's important to know is that the US dollar and metals trade inversely. And what we had here was basically a resistance on around 88 on the index. And we had this rising trend line here that was pushing the US dollar up, putting upward pressure on it. And what happened here is we broke below the trend support. And so what's happened is this overall upward pressure that we were seeing is now reversed into a downward pressure type scenario. We had a possible support area. I was watching this today to see if we would hold. You can see that in the past we've had this particular area as a numerous support and resistance area. It's just below 74.50 on the index. The lowest we had really come here was 74.23 on these. There's 3 points here that almost all coincide as support and resistance. So it was a possible logical location for a possible bounce on the US dollar, but we've broken below the support area. So now suggests our next support is going to be down in the 70 area on the index where our last low was in 2008. This suggests now if basically we took our high points here, we can already see a nice clear downtrend that's developing. This takes us up all the way to about August of 2011 where we don't see any recovery in the US dollar. So we're basically going to see negative pressure on the US dollar here for multiple months. So this isn't, a short-term downswing that we're going to probably see here. There's not any really logical support area until we start to come into these lows, maybe in the 71 area, but still that's going to give us quite a few months of downward pressure. And it's important because with the negative pressure on the US dollar, it's going to be very positive for precious metals. Taking a look at something quite interesting here are our MACD lines, and you can see that we've still got negative momentum here. It's pointing down, and when these lines do cross back up, we should get a break of this resistance trend line, and that's going to give us a bounce on or a reversal of the US dollar, and we should see a short-term recovery. But as I've mentioned in my other analysis, we are going to probably very likely see 6 to 8 years of negative pressure on the US dollar. So certainly the technicals are not looking very good for it. And of course, anyone that's paying attention to the news will understand that neither do the fundamentals. But looking at the RSI here, something I want to point out here is in this period of the chart, we're basically in a downwards trend. And on the RSI, our overbought signals come about 50, and our oversold ones come down to as low as maybe about 20 or so on the RSI. Those sort of give deep oversold signals. When we have positive pressure on the second half of the chart here, pretty much in the middle, you can see that the support areas, the dips are around 30 on the RSI, and the resistance areas come up above around 80 here. This solid line is 70, just above that's about 80. So overbought signals sort of occur in this case. So what's happened here is we're actually moving back down into a downwards trend. So it's going to suggest that any oversold signals are probably going to occur below 30 and probably going to occur maybe around 20. So it looks like on this RSI here, which can give us overbought and oversold signals, we're not going to use this as an oversold signal. We're going to use this area down here as an oversold signal. So it also suggests that we should have, quite a bit of selling pressure here on the US dollar. Okay, let's take a look at gold. So this is the gold-silver ratio. I've covered this quite in depth in some of my other analysis, so I'm just going to cover it briefly. This is the ratio of silver to gold, and generally when the precious metals markets rise, this ratio comes down because silver usually outperforms gold in a bull trend or an upwards trend, and we can see this ratio has just fallen, meaning that silver's been outperforming gold. We've come all the way down to 31.72 on the ratio. Now we are getting a little bit on the oversold section here, so it could suggest that we could see a correction in silver at just about any time, but overall it's suggesting that we should continue to move down farther, that silver is going to continue to outperform the price of gold, and that this ratio is going to continue to close from what we're looking at. So that's also very bullish for both gold and silver, more importantly silver. Okay, let's take a look at the gold chart here. This is a long-term gold chart. You can see basically it's been moving in this rising channel here for the last several years, and we had a little bit of consolidation here just below about $1,430, and just about a week or so ago we had a breakout in gold. So now it gives this gold price a little bit of freedom to move up into the red resistance area. And what's bullish for gold is bullish for silver, so it suggests that gold is probably still a little bit maybe on the oversold side and should have a little more room to run up into this top channel here. Now, we haven't really tested this level here in quite some time. We've generally come up a little bit above mid-trend on the channel, closer to the resistance area before we kind of peak out. We're sitting right about the middle, closer to the lower half with uppers momentum going on. So we probably shouldn't get over, probably shouldn't expect a correction maybe to about $1,550 or $1,600 in gold. So that's also very bullish for the technicals on gold. So let's cover everyone's favorite here. This is silver. I had indicated that we had a breakout here around $20, and I'm going to show you the long-term chart so you can also see kind of where I'm getting this information from. But basically we sort of we're predicting a rising channel here. What we had basically to use off of our data was we had two low points, which were about $18 here, and we had 26, mid 26 range here. So we took these two low points, and what we did is we took a parallel line and we drew it to the high points here. Now that suggests that if we were moving in a channel, that the next resistance area would come, or the next pullback would come where we tested our resistance here. Now actually we've broken out of this channel, so actually we don't really have a channel at all. What we're actually looking at here is the early signs of a parabolic move for silver. And basically if we look at the long-term chart, we can see here many years here of a upwards channel. And what happened is we broke out above the channel, so it suggested that we were going to see sort of a more steep rise occur. And we took our two low points here and we drew this as our trend support with anticipation that after we tested this resistance here, we would probably come back and test our support. But that's not happening. Silver's just continuing on up higher. And what we're actually seeing here is similar to what we saw in this channel where we broke the resistance. What I suggested is that on the pullback, we wouldn't come and test our old support line. We would land somewhere higher, and then that would give silver a more steep trajectory. Now, what's going to happen here is we've broken out past the resistance. On this run up, when we have a pullback, we're not going to come and test what we thought would have been a channel support. We're probably going to land somewhere in the middle again, similar to how we landed in the middle of the channel here. We're probably going to land in the middle of the channel here when we see a pullback, but at this point in time, I certainly don't see one. But what is also a little bit scary and something you need to know about parabolic moves is although they're very exciting, they're not always sustainable. So it's important to know that when we do see a correction, it's going to be very important how far down that we come to sort of suggest where we may go from there. Generally with parabolic moves, they usually end up having huge panics and huge sell-offs. We saw that in 1980 when silver ran up to $50. It basically, if you think of a parabolic curve, it starts off fairly flat, and then it just kind of gets steeper and steeper and steeper until it goes straight up. But then on the correction, it comes straight down, and you almost see like a parabolic type curve going the other way. Now, that may or may not happen with silver. I've probably see, like many of you, that we're going to see a long-term bull market in silver, but this particular parabolic move very likely is going to take it well above $50. So what we're looking at here now is basically as our trend line that we were looking at here is now starting to get more steep, and we're not basically what's going to happen is any corrections that we see are going to be shorter, and any upwards trends that we see are going to be longer. So basically, if we took a look at the old curve, we've got this sort of as our starting point. Here's our second move, and now basically we're going to see probably a third. When we have a correction, we're going to see a third move that's going to get even steeper. But what's very important is as these trends start to get more and more steep, you can see this is our first trend line. Here's our second one. Now we're building up a third one. We need to make sure on any pullbacks that we hold our most recent trend line. Otherwise, that's going to signal a correction back down to the next one, or even back down to the next one. Something I don't personally foresee at the particular point in time. I personally do see silver going quite a bit higher than it currently is, but keep in mind that there will always be short-term corrections along the way up, and I certainly am suggesting that silver is in the early stages here of a parabolic move. So very exciting for silver. And something else I want to mention is that I do have a special project coming soon called the Silver Secret Trading Society, and I do hope to be launching that soon. I hope it's something everyone would be excited about, and I hope that many people here that are watching these videos and are participating in the silver markets will be participating in this as well. So thanks very much. Have a great Easter weekend, and I hope you all the best. Thanks for watching, and you're listening to Matt Chart.